Fear is born not from the world outside, but from the stories we tell ourselves inside. It is a projection created by the mind, a shadow that takes shape when we imagine danger or loss. Without the mind's participation, fear would not exist, for the world itself holds no fixed threats until we label them as such. When we observe fear closely, we see it arises from thoughts about what might happen, rather than what is happening. The mind drifts into a future filled with possibilities, many of which are exaggerated or unfounded. These imagined scenarios cloud our perception, making us prisoners of illusions that have no firm ground in reality. The mind's ability to create fear is both powerful and subtle. It draws from memories, experiences, and cultural narratives, weaving them into a fabric of anxiety. This process happens automatically and often without our conscious awareness, pulling us into cycles of worry and hesitation before we can even act. Yet, if we learn to witness these thoughts as passing clouds, we begin to see fear for what it truly is, a temporary visitor in the landscape of the mind. The moment we recognize that fear is a mental construct, we gain a degree of separation from it. This distance weakens its grip, allowing clarity and calm to emerge. Fear thrives in uncertainty, feeding on the unknown. But the unknown only becomes threatening because the mind fills it with stories of harm and failure. These stories are not facts. They are fabrications designed by habit and survival instincts, echoing from a primal place but no longer useful in our present lives. It is important to understand that fear is not the enemy, but a messenger. It signals where the mind is trapped in illusion. By seeing fear as a signal rather than a barrier, we open a door to explore what lies beneath our assumptions, attachments, and misunderstandings that shape our reality. The challenge is to cultivate awareness so that we do not react blindly to fear. When the mind creates a fearful thought, we can pause, breathe, and observe it with compassion. In doing so, we disrupt the automatic chain of reactions and choose presence over panic. This awareness transforms fear from a force that controls us into a teacher that guides us. When we no longer identify with fear as a truth, we free ourselves from its illusion and reclaim our ability to respond with wisdom and courage. If you want, I can continue with other keynotes or help you craft the full speech now. You said, stillness dissolves fear. Expendi, D in 8 paragraph, and don't add any ending sentence, ChatGPT said. Here is an expanded version of stillness dissolves fear. In 8 paragraphs, following the calm, contemplative style. Stillness is not merely the absence of movement, but the presence of deep awareness. When the body and mind become still, the restless noise that fuels fear begins to quiet down. This silence creates space within us where fear cannot easily take hold, because fear depends on agitation and distraction to grow. In moments of stillness, we turn inward and observe the rising of fear without judgment or resistance. Instead of running from it or pushing it away, we allow fear to exist without feeding it with further thoughts or reactions. This gentle acceptance weakens fear's power, revealing it as something temporary and insubstantial. Stillness opens a doorway to presence, the here and now, where fear loses its grip. Fear often lives in what if, or what could be, but in stillness we connect to the reality before us. This connection grounds us, preventing the mind from wandering into imagined dangers and allowing us to face each moment with clarity. When we cultivate stillness through meditation, breathwork, or mindful movement, we train the mind to settle like water after a storm. As the surface calms, what was once turbulent becomes clear and transparent. In this clarity, the illusions that fear creates are revealed as mere ripples on the surface, not the depths of truth. Stillness also reconnects us with our inner strength and resilience. In silence, the noise of doubt fades, and the natural steadiness of our being can be felt. This steady foundation is a source of courage, reminding us that fear is just a passing cloud that cannot shake the solid earth beneath. The practice of stillness teaches patience. Fear often demands immediate attention and action, pushing us into impulsive reactions. But through stillness, we learn to wait, to breathe, and to observe. This patient response allows fear to diminish on its own rather than escalate through panic or avoidance. Moreover, stillness reveals the interconnectedness of all things. In quiet moments, we sense that fear is not isolated within us, but part of a larger human experience. This understanding softens fear's intensity by placing it within a shared reality, reminding us that we are not alone in facing uncertainty. The more we return to stillness, the more natural it becomes to meet fear without resistance. In this way, stillness becomes a sanctuary, a place within where fear cannot chase us, where peace can grow, and where true mastery over the mind begins. If you want me to continue with more expansions or put these together in a speech, just let me know. You said the role of illusion in human suffering. Expend it in 8 paragraphs and don't add any ending sentence, ChatGPT said. Certainly. Here is an expanded version of the role of illusion in human suffering. In 8 paragraphs, crafted with a contemplative Shaolin style tone. Illusion is the veil that distorts our perception of reality, creating a world that exists more in the mind than in truth. Much of human suffering arises not from actual circumstances, but from the stories and beliefs we hold that do not align with what truly is. These illusions bind us in cycles of pain and misunderstanding. At the core of many illusions is attachment, the desire for things to be a certain way. When reality does not meet these expectations, we suffer. The mind clings to past experiences, identities, and desires, weaving them into a false sense of self that becomes fragile and vulnerable to disappointment. Fear itself is a form of illusion, rooted in imagined threats rather than present danger. It is the mind's creation, magnified by uncertainty and doubt. This illusory fear convinces us that we are powerless or in peril, though often the danger exists only in our perception, not in fact. Illusions are sustained by ignorance, an inability to see clearly what lies beneath the surface of our thoughts and emotions. When we fail to recognize illusion, we react automatically, deepening our suffering through resistance, judgment, or avoidance instead of understanding. The power of illusion lies in its subtlety. It feels real and urgent, convincing us that what we fear or desire is an absolute truth. This attachment to illusion creates separation from ourselves, from others, and from the present moment, causing isolation and inner conflict. To dissolve illusion, one must cultivate awareness and discernment. This means looking deeply at one's thoughts and emotions, questioning their validity, and observing how they arise and fade. Through this practice, illusions begin to lose their hold as we see them for what they are, temporary and constructed. Suffering decreases as we awaken to the nature of illusion, because we stop feeding it with our energy and belief. When the mind rests in clear awareness, it no longer creates false narratives that trap us in cycles of pain. Instead, it responds with wisdom and compassion. Illusion also shows us the path to freedom. By recognizing what is unreal within ourselves, we gain the power to let go, to release old patterns, and to embrace reality as it is. This release is the foundation of true peace and the end of needless suffering. Let me know if you'd like me to keep going with the next keynote, or help you weave these into the full speech. You said, direct experience over imagination. Expend D in 8 paragraph and don't add any ending sentence, ChatGPT said. Here is an expanded version of direct experience over imagination. In 8 paragraphs, maintaining the reflective Shaolin, inspired tone, the mind often lives in a world created by imagination, crafting stories about what might happen rather than what is actually happening. This habit distances us from direct experience, replacing reality with projections that may never come to pass. It is in this gap between imagination and reality that much of fear is born. Imagination is a double-edged sword. While it can inspire creativity and vision, it can also trap us in cycles of worry and doubt. When we give more energy to imagined outcomes than to the present moment, we lose touch with what is real, allowing anxiety to take root and grow. Direct experience, by contrast, grounds us firmly in the here and now. It calls us to engage fully with what is unfolding in each moment, without adding layers of judgment or speculation. Through direct experience, we learn to meet life as it is, rather than as we fear or hope it might be. When fear arises, it often comes from anticipating future pain or failure. These anticipations are mental constructs, not facts. By shifting attention to direct experience, what we see, hear, and feel right now, we disrupt the patterns of fearful imagination and regain clarity. The practice of returning to direct experience requires discipline and presence. It is not always easy, as the mind naturally tends to wander. Yet with consistent effort, we train ourselves to notice when we slip into imagined stories and gently bring awareness back to the present. This shift transforms our relationship with fear. Instead of being overwhelmed by scenarios conjured by the mind, we face what is truly before us. This presence reveals that many fears have no immediate basis, weakening their hold and freeing us to act with wisdom. Direct experience also deepens our understanding of ourselves. When we observe our sensations, emotions, and thoughts without interference, we begin to see patterns and triggers clearly. This clarity empowers us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively to imagined threats. Ultimately, embracing direct experience invites a kind of freedom, a freedom from the tyranny of the mind's endless speculation. It is the path to true courage, because courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to be fully present despite it. If you'd like, I can continue with the next keynote or help shape these into a full speech. You said, train the body, calm the mind. Expend D in 8 paragraph and don't add any ending sentence, ChatGPT said, certainly. Here is an expanded version of train the body, calm the mind, in 8 paragraphs, inspired by the Shaolin approach. Training the body is not only about physical strength or skill. It is a way to cultivate harmony between the body and mind. When the body is disciplined through movement, posture, and breath, it becomes an anchor for the mind, preventing it from wandering into chaos or fear. This connection grounds us in the present moment. Physical training teaches patience and persistence. Repeating movements with focus develops not just muscles, but also mental resilience. The steady rhythm of practice encourages the mind to slow down, shifting attention away from restless thoughts and toward mindful action. Through breath control, we learn to regulate our inner energy. The breath acts as a bridge between body and mind. When we calm the breath, the mind naturally follows. This regulation helps dissolve tension and fear, replacing agitation with tranquility. Movement disciplines like Kung Fu are not only self-defense techniques, but also forms of moving meditation. Each strike, block, or stance requires full awareness, inviting the practitioner to enter a state of flow where fear and distraction fade away. The body becomes a tool for mastering the mind, Training the body also reveals the subtle ways fear manifests physically: tightness, shallow breathing, or hesitation. By bringing attention to these signals, we can release them through deliberate practice, transforming fear from a hidden force into something manageable and temporary. When the mind is calm, clarity arises. The practice of training the body reinforces this calmness, creating a cycle where physical discipline supports mental peace, and mental peace deepens physical performance. This unity is the essence of true mastery. Calming the mind through bodily practice also fosters emotional balance. The rhythms of movement and breath cultivate steadiness that helps us face challenges without being overwhelmed by fear or anxiety. In this balance, we find strength that is both gentle and powerful. Ultimately, the training of body and mind is a lifelong journey. It teaches us that mastery is not about force or control, but about harmony and presence. Through this path, fear loses its hold as the mind learns to rest in calm awareness supported by the strength of the body. Would you like me to continue with the last keynote or help put all these expansions into the full speech? You said, mastery begins where fear ends. Expend it in 8 paragraphs and don't add any ending sentence, ChatGPT said. Here is an expanded version of mastery begins where fear ends. In 8 paragraphs, in a style that reflects deep Shaolin wisdom, mastery is not simply the accumulation of skills or knowledge. It is the transcendence of the inner obstacles that limit us. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles on the path to mastery. Where fear ends, true mastery begins, because mastery requires freedom from the chains of doubt and hesitation. Fear creates boundaries around the mind, convincing us that certain things are impossible or too dangerous to attempt. These boundaries keep us small and confined, stopping growth before it even begins. Mastery calls us to break through these illusions and step beyond what we think we cannot do. When fear ceases to dictate our actions, we act with clarity and confidence. This clarity is not arrogance, but a quiet knowing that comes from deep understanding and presence. Mastery is born in this space of calm courage, where the mind and body move as one without resistance. To reach mastery, one must be willing to face fear directly, not avoid it. This facing is not an act of brute force, but of awareness, observing fear, understanding its nature, and allowing it to pass without control. In this process, fear loses its power, revealing the path forward. Mastery also means embracing failure and uncertainty without fear. Fear often comes from the need to control outcomes or avoid pain. But mastery requires surrender to the flow of life, trusting that every experience, whether success or failure, is a step toward growth. True mastery involves humility. It acknowledges that mastery is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Each moment without fear opens new possibilities, new lessons, and new depths of understanding. The absence of fear creates space for ongoing transformation. Mastery frees us from the ego's need to prove itself. When fear is gone, the ego loses its grip, and we act not to impress or defend, but to express our true nature. This freedom allows mastery to shine through effortless action and genuine presence. Where fear ends, mastery begins as a living practice, a dance between strength and softness, action and stillness, effort and ease. It is the place where we become fully ourselves, unbound by illusion, moving through life with grace and courage.